Proven that two-faced individuals are shown to be as dishonest, gossipy, and inconsistent. So why do we need to talk about this? Because a whole lot of people are two-faced, or at least everyone knows someone who is. Let's jump into today's topic. Meet our guests.
Okay, so I'm Mrs. Chandler, and this is my 28th year of teaching at North Everett High School, and I love lots of things. There's all kinds of things that I'm interested in, but I particularly like in the summertime to hike, and I recently started running, and I'm really into gardening.
I'm Kate, and I'm a student athlete. I love animals. I participate in the 4-H club. Yeah.
I'm John. I play football, and I am in the ag program.
I'm Ashley, and I do high school golf and track and field, and I love to go camping.
Well, thank you all for coming. So one of the questions I'm going to ask you is...
Maddie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you know about your subject before we start a little bit?
So my subject is about being two-faced, and I know that being two-faced can cause like problems in people's life and things like that. So I thought that it was important that we talked about this as a group. So my first question for you is to explain to me why you think so many people are two-faced and why it's such a common thing we see today.
I think it's a common thing that we see today because, we're just trying to fit in and like trying to make friends, but also be true to ourselves. So, yeah.
Do you think then it's excusable? Like, are you saying that? Kelly, right?
Kate.
Oh, Kate, I'm sorry. You think that's excusable?
No, I don't. I think that people should just be true to themselves and like be the person they are and not try to change themselves.
I like that. I think that that's so true because everyone's, at one point, they just want to impress everyone, so they're scared to show them their real selves.
I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know, maybe because I have almost 50 years of life experience, that the idea of being two-faced usually sort of seems kind of negative, and I do think it is, but I think a lot of the label of two-faced comes from people who are being labeled as it, not by people who are doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like somebody else does something and you're like, oh, that's so two-faced, right? Not a person who's done it saying like, I'm gonna deliberately be two-faced. Like I'm gonna be one way to you, and when you're not looking, I'm gonna just stab you in the back. Like, I think that's what makes it dangerous, because I feel like people end up being accused of things, and we're so likely to take that as gospel. Like we're like, oh, it must be true if Maddie said it, right? Or if Cameron, I'll get him. If, somebody said something about Cameron, and I only met him, 2 minutes ago. I think we're a society of people who just want to cause drama, and so the idea of being two-faced just feeds that drama.
I would say people like to be two-faced to cause drama and gossip, and when they have like two different friend groups, one friend group may start talking bad, and then they'll start agreeing without realizing it maybe, and then they start going down the hole of being two-faced, and then they kind of can't think their way.
Since you guys have shared your experiences, your inputs, your opinions on how girls have been two-faced and like examples of that and your experiences with that, and then Cameron and John, you guys have explained like how guys aren't as two-faced, do you still think that girls are more two-faced? Because
My friends we don't really stab each other in the back that much, really.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and my friends, we just kind of like say whatever we think is on our mind, and we don't really like try and hide anything from each other, because like if we say we don't really like try and hide anything from each other, because like if we say have something on our head that's controversial with each other, we're still gonna say it, and we still probably don't care.
So do you think, I'm just curious, that then it's more likely to be an issue for females than it is for males?
Maybe.
Yeah,
It
maybe.
sounds like it.
Why do you think so? Like, why do you think it's like, I completely agree. This is why when I was in high school, I just absolutely completely gravitated to having a group of guy friends as opposed to girlfriends. I think girls are stupid. Sorry, no offense. When I was in high school, I could not deal with the drama. I didn't want any part of it. I was like, I do not have time to figure out what you meant by what you said, when you said it, who you said it to. Like, my best friend completely, the entire time I grew up, was a guy for that very reason. So I'm curious about that. Go ahead, Ash.
I think that girls are more two-faced because they like to have the drama, and
Do they like it though? It's
I
so
think they're just
girls
trying to
do.
impress people.
some people do, and then you have the others that like just want to stay out of it. But I feel like that girls are more two-faced because of the drama, and because I feel like we also are more sensitive to what people say as the guys. They don't really care and they kind of just brush it off, but we'll take a deeper meaning to it, and then it'll affect us more, and then that can take the relationship in the other way. But then if you're two-faced about it, it can also take that relationship in the same way.
But I totally agree with what you just said. Yeah, like we just keep things like we go deeper into meanings than guys would. So we just change like how we think about each other when we're not together or together. And guys wouldn't, I guess.
What do you think, Maddie?
I think that Ashley and Kate have a really good point. So, going off of that, do you think, because you said girls, they like just to cause drama, do you think it's because they're trying to draw attention to themselves? Or do you think they're just doing it for the drama?
I honestly think it can be both, and it also like depends on who it is. Because I feel like if you're more on the popular side, you might just want to start drama to like have like other people just like kind of bring them in. But then you might just have the others who like don't mean to start it, and then like they kind of end up bringing themselves into it even though they didn't mean to start it.
It's so interesting that you mentioned the word popular. Maddie knows this because we've talked about this year. I fundamentally think that the word popular, like when you say the label, like you're so popular, is such a load of crap. Because you know who gave the people who are popular the label of being popular?
Everyone else.
Themselves. They gave it to themselves. And we allow it. We're like, oh, they're so popular, right? Like we like feed that. And so in some ways, if we don't, like, the idea of being two-faced just frustrates me to no end, because I feel like it's just somebody being hypocritical. But I also think we allowed it to happen. Like when we give people the authority to say, I am cooler than you because I have a braid in my hair. You know what I mean? Like I think you're wonderful, but you get my point. I feel like we just give away so much control, and because we give that away, we allow this kind of behavior to become acceptable. And so I just, as an adult, it's just really easy for me to go, I don't have time for that. Like you as teenagers, I think it's much harder to do that, but I do appreciate so much the boys who are just like, dude, you're pissing me off, and then that's the end of it. Whereas girls are like, oh my God, did you hear? Right? And it becomes this like snowball craziness that just manifests, and then people linger there. They're like, well, when you were in third grade and you pulled my chair out from it, and then you like want to fight historically, like you want to go back to things that happened months and months and months ago. I just think there's so many things tied in with two-faced. I tell my children this all the time. I have a 23-year-old and I have a 16-year-old, and I said, if you didn't hear it with your own ears and you didn't see it with your own eyes, it didn't happen. Don't comment on it. Don't get involved in it. Don't react to it. It's not your business. Do you know how hard it is to live by that as a teenager in today's society? So I feel for you. I think that's why two-faced is such an issue, because immediately, if it's on Instagram, oh, therefore it must be true, right? If it's on TikTok, if it's on, what is it now, X, Twitter, it's suddenly true. But, well, that's complete crap. You know that as well as I do. And, in fact, I have somebody on my newspaper staff right now who's experiencing something really terrible. And she said, Miss Chandler, there's this rumor going around. And I said, I'm so sorry. I said, but don't worry, because tomorrow it'll be gone, so they'll have something else to talk about. And sure enough, guess what? the next day, within less than 24 hours, there's something else to talk about. So I don't know. I don't know if that's directly related, Maddie, to being two-faced, but I just think we're, like I said, a culture of people. But boys, I'm still sort of fascinated by the whole, like, I can't relate. Like, you've never been two-faced ever in your life.
No, I wouldn't say I have been.
Really?
I would say that every time I find something cool or something like if I don't like something, I'm just gonna say I don't like it, and if
Yeah.
I like something, I'm gonna say that's cool and probably try and dive deeper into that. But
Does it ever make people mad when you're like, no, it's not cool?
so like most of the time, I'll try and like indirectly say it just to like not anger them. But if I ever tell somebody like that's stupid, they usually don't care.
Yeah. What about you?
Kind of the same thing, really.
Have you ever been two-faced? Never in your whole life?
Never.
Really? I don't think I have done it intentionally, but I think I probably have in my life been two-faced. But sometimes I think it's... Do you watch the show The Bachelor? Does anybody watch The Bachelor? Okay, well, I do. I cannot believe I'm admitting this publicly, but I have been watching it. And there's a girl on the show right now who everybody loves to hate, and she got kicked off. I didn't like her, really, because I thought she was kind of sassy. But she got kicked off, and a woman on the show who hated her BFF in the house is now being nice to the girl who stayed, right? Like, she liked the girl who left more than the girl who stayed. It was like a 2-on-1 thing. Anyway, and the girl in the house is like, how can you do that? How can you just shift now and be friends with the girl who's still here? And the girl who's still here said, because I have a goal in mind. And it made me think about this conversation in that, like, I don't know, do you ever just play the part because you know that it's going to be advantageous to you? Like, I don't really believe this, but like in this environment, I'm okay with maybe like telling my coach what my coach wants to hear, telling my, like, you're that's just not how you operate.
No, because if you want to go for something, like you want to like win or you want to achieve something, I feel it's better to be like positive and like kind of say what's on your mind, because like in the long term, like in the short term that can be fine, but in the long term that lie may come back to bite you, and like it may spiral out of control, and you may end up losing in the long term.
What do you think?
I agree. I think that you should just stay truthful because, like Cameron said, like, lies always come back and then it puts you in a worse situation that you were in.
So are you a liar if you're two-faced?
Yes, I would say so. But then again, it depends on, like, how you're being two-faced because, like, there's ways to use being two-faced to your advantage. Like, if you're using it to protect you, then that's different. But if you're using it just to, like, start drama or make someone mad, that's different.
Right. I go back to what I said earlier. I want to believe you. Like, I want to believe that people aren't intentionally two-faced. But I 100% in my personal life and my professional life, no. Even my best friend, I've been best friends with my best friend for a long, long time. And she said to me recently, she said, you know, when I first met you, she said, I knew you were a teacher at the school where my kids went to school. And she said, I knew that would work in my favor ultimately. Is that two-faced? I want to be your friend, but you also work at the school where my kids go to school.
I mean, I think it could be, but in that situation, I don't think so. I think it could just been a coincidence.
Could be, yeah, could be. But certainly, like, I remember a time when her daughter was sobbing in the main office. Like, she knew that I'd be here to pick up the mess. You know what I mean? So I don't begrudge that at all. I don't think that's two-faced. I think it's taking advantage of a situation in a positive way if you can. And I don't necessarily think that's always bad. But you made an interesting point, Maddie. Talk a little bit. Like you said, being two-faced isn't always bad.
So, like, kind of like you said, like with your friend and her daughter in the office, like, if you weren't friends with the girl's mom, like, some stranger could have just been, like, trying to comfort her, but knowing that her friend was there in the building and that you, like, knew her daughter, that it would be, like, a better setting for her daughter, so she would feel, like more comforted, I guess, and safer.
I feel like being two-faced, there's a positive and negative side. I think that people show more of the negative side than the positive side. But I think you can use being two-faced to your advantage. I think it just depends on the way that you use it.
Right. Maddie, we talked about this a while back about just if you're an employee, right, and your boss is like, how are things going? You want to put your best foot forward. You want to impress your boss. But if your friend said to you, like, how are things going? And you're like, man, I was at this crazy party on the weekend, right? You're going to say to them what you wouldn't necessarily say to your boss. Well, that's just sensible, right?
Yeah.
That's just good common sense. It's kind of knowing when to be completely forthright and be completely vulnerable and show somebody that side of you, and knowing when it's probably not pragmatic or practical to do that. And I think that's kind of a skill. I don't think that's necessarily being two-faced. Like, I think of two-faced being intentional. Like, I am choosing to hurt you because what I can say about you or behave to you is going to work in my favor. And that part bothers me. Like, I don't think most people are walking around going like, what can I do to like get at you in some way and make me look better? I don't want to believe that, but I think there are people who exist that way, who legit will say exactly what they think you want to hear because they know how to play the game so well. And I say that's where we go into the problem of manipulation. I don't think it's about being two-faced. I think you're just really good at manipulating. So I guess that's it. Like, do you manipulate people?
I wouldn't say so, no.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think that I personally do, but I think that there are definitely people who are and know that they're doing it just to get what they want. So.
Go ahead.
I don't really manipulate people. I just state why I think I'm right, and then see. like if I think of something and I think like I'm right and maybe like this is the best way to go, I'll just state that and like we may have a back and forth, but I don't try and like move their mind in a certain way. I just try and like convince them of something, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And if it
But then you
does,
don't go
it's
talk
fine.
bad about them because they didn't agree with you.
No, I don't really care.
Yeah. That's so refreshing because I feel like, especially in today's day and age, the minute somebody doesn't agree with you or take the same side as you, then you become the target. Like, you become a target and people want to say stuff about you, especially if it's an unpopular opinion, right? I had this conversation recently about, I am not a Taylor Swift fan. I'm sorry if you all are. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan. I said that I felt, in journalism, do you remember? I felt really bad. I feel bad for Taylor Swift. Right? But I also feel bad for the football players who just want to play football. Like, why did we suddenly need to make every football game, and especially the Super Bowl, about how many pictures we can put up of Taylor Swift on a screen in a 3-hour period of time, instead of just let these guys play football? And the people who are football fans, let them just enjoy football. So I don't know if that necessarily correlates directly, but it could. What else are we thinking about two-faced, Maddie?
Well, Ashley kind of answered the question of how, like, it has the impact of being negative overweights the positive. Why do you think that?
I just think people use it to hurt others and use it as their advantage to make them look better and then their friend look worse, and then overall that messes up their relationship. And most of the time I don't really think you can fix that relationship because the person's like, why would you do that? And then even if they do go back to being friends or something, they'll more than likely just do the same thing again, and then like it screws up the relationship again. And it keeps going back and forth until that person finally realizes like, oh, they're just gonna keep doing this to me, like I can't be friends with them anymore.
Right. So there's like a limit. There's a limit to which you get to. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we have a pretty high tolerance for the way people treat us until it becomes a point at which you just can't turn your head anymore.
I also think it takes people some time to realize like, oh, they're not gonna stop doing this, and other people it might be like, oh, they're like a quicker time period where they realize they're not going to stop. So I think it like depends on the person that they're being two-faced to and how like long it takes them to realize what's happening to them if they keep forgiving the person.
Do you think this is something that will get better as you age? Like, do you think the older you get, the more you get into your adult relationships in your lives, that you'll encounter less or more of that kind of two-faced behavior?
Depends on your field of work.
Tell me what you mean.
So there are certain jobs, like if you want to be a doctor, then you have to be straightforward. You have to give them like your honest opinion on maybe what's wrong with them, like what is wrong with them. And then like there are other things where like you may want to withhold information because it could be worse for you or maybe worse for a client. And so like then you may want to put up like a certain facade or something like that just to like to try and reach the top.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. Maddie, what do you think?
I didn't think about it that way either. I would think like as you get older, it would get easier because like people are just less toxic as you get older, and when we're teenagers, like everyone just cares about drama and like attention. But that's a good way to think about it. I never thought of it that way.
Well, I mean, I am the oldest person in the room, so it's a little easier for me to talk about this, but I'm thinking like even of your parents or aunts and uncles and people in your grandparents in your life. I can tell you from a professional level, there are, I think 92 people who I teach with in this building total, right? And I'm not going to tell you that I love all of them, but I can play the game. I can work with you. And that doesn't make me two-faced. It just makes me adaptable. And I think you have no choice in a professional environment but to figure out how to work with people that maybe you don't necessarily want to work with or like working with, but you don't really have any alternative because it's an expectation that you figure out how to make that work. But I don't think that's two-faced again. I just think that's reasonable. Now, the people in my personal life, like the people I choose to bring into my circle, are people I would not ever do that with. Like what you see is what you get. If you don't like it, I'm kind of with you. It's all right. You don't need to like it. Hopefully you still like me, but you don't have to like everything that I'm doing or saying. Like, I don't know. I feel like hopefully the older you get, the more mature you get about how you deal with that conflict. And you know what? Sometimes you got to walk away, right? You as an adult, there's people in your life who, I think you used the word toxic. I forget who used the word toxic. Maybe it was somebody. But like, you have to know when it's toxic and just sort of walk away. I kind of want to like be a dude though, because I feel like they have it so much easy. You make it sound like it's so easy.
It's just tunnel vision.
It is. Like you're just hyper focused on.
Yeah, you just want to go straight. You don't really feel like branching off into like thinking about maybe something that happened a few weeks ago, something that's happening now. Like you just kind of like see something and try and go towards
Are
that.
you an anomaly though? Like do you think if we go in the hallway right now, we get up 50 boys and we say, have you ever been two-faced? Have you ever, are most boys gonna say, no, I don't think it's a big issue for boys?
Yeah, I would think the majority would say like no. If they say yeah, then like that's strange coming from them, because like I rarely meet guys that are like putting up a facade or trying to like hide something that they don't have.
So interesting. I want to believe you. I do. I want to believe you. But I'm thinking about some of the boys in my classes. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure some of them are one way at home with their mama's angel, and then they come to class and they're like, phew, off the chart. Then maybe that doesn't make them two-faced, but I don't know that they're always presenting the same way to their buddies.
So, some kids is kind of when they're around like family members or somebody they may be like really close with, maybe they just kind of like use nicer language, because like around my friends, and this is less around adults because adults are more of like respected individuals, and like you don't want to like kind of just be like say all the language you may say around your friends.
Sure.
Because like around my friends, like I cuss and like I use words that I probably wouldn't use around like my parents, because my mama would send me halfway across the country. if she heard
Do you have a
something.
similar, like, is that kind of where you are
yeah.
too? You've been a little bit quiet, so I'm curious what's going on in that brain of yours.
Nothing much, really.
Gotcha. So do you have sisters? Do you have sisters?
I do not.
But you have sisters. Are they older or younger?
One's actually in this high school right now, and then one is graduating.
Okay. So I'm just curious about kind of from your perspective, and maybe we can end with this unless there's something you want to finish with, because we got to send them back to class. What's your experience watching them in terms of that behavior? Are you like just shaking your head like, what is wrong with you people?
I know she's in like a lot of drama right now, really.
Oh.
Yeah.
So two-faced is definitely something that is playing a part. It just sounds like two-faced and drama are synonyms for one another.
I hate being in the drama. I try to
Yes.
stay out of it, and then sometimes I'll be dragged in. I'm just trying to find a way to leave it.
Yep. And you know what? That's the best part about it, because guess what? You can. You just walk away. If it, what did I just say? If you didn't hear it, you didn't see it, and that's not your experience, right? Because that's what happens. Like if I'm like, Emily, no, Kate, why am I having such a hard time? I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
But if Kate tells me something about you, Ashley, and I'm not involved in it, and all of a sudden you're like, she's such a two-faced, you know what? And I'm like, you're right. But I actually really like you, right? And I think you're pretty awesome. And I think you just have to kind of condition yourself to go, your experience with her is not my experience with her. And so I know you feel that way, and I respect that you feel that way, but I'm not jumping on your boat. You can go down, but I don't want to be on the Titanic with you. Like, I just want to kind of figure things out with you. I think that's really hard as a teenager, because guess what? You're putting a lot of pressure on me to hate her. And then if I don't, guess what? Suddenly you're talking about me. And now she hates both of us, right? And so I feel like it's a big ask for a lot of teenagers to just say, don't get sucked in.
I
Do
feel
you
like
think?
when we hear something, we always are like thinking about it, like could this be true, or like could they actually do this, and like they're always, I feel like girls for the most part like are always overthinking what they heard or what they're going to do, just because like we're worried about the consequences or what could happen.
You are master chess players. Have you ever played chess? You play chess? Anybody play chess?
I do.
Yeah, but like you know exactly what move to make. Girls are always looking for like, where can I maneuver to put this so I'm in the best possible situation I can be? And I don't know. I didn't grow up that way. It's not it's not my moral fiber to behave that way. And I think it's really terrible in middle school. I mean, I'm certified to teach 7 through 12. You would not ever find me caught dead in a middle school classroom. I just think middle school girls, that's where it starts. And I feel like if you can't unravel that behavior before, and no offense, ninth graders. There's a lot of ninth graders who fall into this category. Would you agree?
Yes.
I think ninth grade girls haven't quite all figured it out yet. And I'm not saying ninth grade boys are off the hook either, but like I do think there's something that just comes with maturity. I think at some point you just get to a point where you're like, you know what? I just don't want to be a part of this. And I think that takes courage. Go ahead, jump in.
I think it's that at one point it's almost like you're kind of conditioned throughout life just like to kind of say yes to like something that's being said. Like maybe you don't agree with it, but some people kind of are conditioned to a point to where they say yes to almost everything.
Good
like
point.
they say like I hate so and so, and they're just kind of like yeah. And I think as you get like I see a lot with my friends, and most of my friends are guys, and a lot of times like we can say like I don't like so and so because maybe they did this, and like most of the time like we just say like that's factually wrong, because like my friend earlier today we were doing hot takes in English class, and then he said
In
that
this class last year, when we did the hot takes, it was very like controversial depending on your topic. It was also kind of like fun to see what people's views were and what yours were, and like kind of just going back and forth, not really arguing, but like hearing other people's opinions.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because my daughter took class with him as well, and I remember her saying sometimes the people who were speaking in those hot takes talk about being two-faced, like, and knowing when to do it. They're like, I know who's in my class. There is no way I'm going to tell them what I really think, because if I do, they're going to eat my face off, right? And so just knowing that the safer choice is to say Dr. Pepper is not the best soft drink, though it is, you know, in a conversation, in an environment like that, because you don't want to become the target of their aggression or their anger.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming and discussing this important topic with me. It was good to see how the boys viewed being two-faced versus how the girls viewed being two-faced. Stay tuned for my next podcast about backstabbers and how they truly affect your mental health. your mental health.